Hi everyone. So, those of you who know me know I'm writing a novel. I am over halfway through and I've been sending out a few chapters to friends of mine just to get critiques and figure out what changes need to be made and what I'm doing well. But for those of you too lazy to read, I thought I would post this and just read the first chapter. So, you know, you can hear it and I can get more feedback because it's super helpful. Alright, so this is the first chapter of my novel, The Chronicle of Rosalie. It starts with an excerpt. "You need to make it to the hatch, Rose," Graydon said, as he gripped my hand tighter. I didn't like how he said you and not we. I was worried what that meant. "You need to run for the hatch. It's not far. Lady is waiting for you. You need to run, Rose." He sounded as if he were pleading, and I didn't like his tone one bit. I didn't want to let go of his hand. He let go of mine. "Run," he repeated, and I did. Chapter 1. Spoon. I stared out the window as the rain came pouring down. I wished it would swallow me up. I was lost amidst the chaos. It had been raining since September and seemed like it would never stop. The leaves were falling from the trees, leaving piles of dead brown carcasses of what used to be lively green foliage. The lamps lining the street would have done little to brighten the late afternoon, even had they worked, what with all the billowing dark clouds overhead. I wished for light to shine through, though I wasn't thinking of the clouds, but of my darkened heart. I imagined something coming out of the darkness to whisk me away from this wretched place. I could smell the rain, but it was not enough to overpower the smell of blood in the streets. The sour copper smell that filled my nostrils, stinging the inside of my nose with a sharp metallic odor that burdened each deep breath. The stench descended down until reaching the back of my throat, turning the smell into a faint taste, bringing back those memories of childhood when I'd lost a tooth and my gums wouldn't stop the flow of blood into my mouth. Except this was worse. It had a hint of rancid meat, the kind you find in that forgotten drawer of the fridge, or when you pass by decaying roadkill on the freeway baking in the heat of the summer sun. It was enough to make me want to vomit, but I held it back. Not that there was anything in my stomach to heave up. I hadn't eaten in days. I couldn't stay here, not for much longer, though there was really nowhere else to go. The bars on the windows wouldn't do much in the way of protection, but they were better than nothing. I finally took my gaze off the window to see that Graydon had started a fire in the old worn-out fireplace. I was worried that the smoke would attract them sooner, but knew that fires were raging all over town and was happy for the much-needed warmth. Sheila came running into the room and excitedly exclaimed, "I found a few cans of beans in the cupboards." The look of happiness dazzled all over her 13-year-old face, a smile from ear to ear lighting up pale green eyes. I wondered how she could still manage to smile after all she had seen, but found that I myself was helplessly smiling back at her. I heard a loud clatter to the north and a silence swept over us, the momentary joy in our faces draining into paralyzing fear. I quickly realized that it was merely the sound of thunder, but I still became concerned for the safety of the others. Tyrell and Lady hadn't returned yet, and it was getting darker. I needed to put my game face back on. I didn't need to let Sheila see me worried. I looked over to see her hands were trembling, gripping the cans tightly. "Come on, Sheila," I said. "Let's go see if we can find a can opener." She followed me into the kitchen. It was decrepit, to say the least. The cupboards had been torn from their hinges, and panels of rotten wood, utensils, and what once was trash were strewn across the floor. "Gee, Sheila, how did you manage searching through here?" I asked, trying not to think of what I was stepping in. "Easy," she replied. "I just covered my mouth with my shirt and pretended I was hunting for treasure." She nimbly jumped ahead of me and began scouring the remaining drawers for anything of use. I followed suit and checked the dusty cabinets to my right. A bent potato peeler, a rusty corkscrew, and some broken dishes, but no can opener to be found. I pocketed the corkscrew, thinking it may come in handy at some point. I'd had just about as much of that stench as I could stand. "Any luck, girlie?" I asked Sheila as I turned around. "Nope, nada, but I did find a shiny spoon." she exclaimed. I looked, and in her hand she held a small silver teaspoon. It seemed oddly fancy considering our current surroundings. Can I keep it? She asked hopefully. It seemed strange that I was the say-so around here. I was only 6 years older than the girl. Whatever floats your boat, kiddo, I replied dryly. We returned to the living area, if you could call it that, with no can opener. My face brightened slightly as I saw Lady and Tyrell had returned and were warming themselves by the fire. Sheila got excited and rushed over to Tyrell. I found food! Well, we found food. I found it. But we searched for a can opener and we didn't find it. But I did find a spoon. But we can't eat the food I found because I couldn't find it. Sheila rambled. Could you please explain to me what the tiny one is trying to say here? Tyrell bellowed at me, letting out a slight chuckle. She found some cans of beans, but we didn't happen upon a can opener, I informed him. Lady had sat down cross-legged next to the fire, started ruffling through her bag and happily saying to no one in particular, Gold, children, gold! And out of her bag she pulled a rusty old can opener. We all cheered. Lady was an odd one. Late 20s, early 30s, if I had to guess. A giant multicolored mohawk rested on her head and always tilted a little to the left. She was missing a few screws, but I was glad she had her backs. Graydon did the honors and opened the first can. He used a pair of tongs to hold it over the fire, as we all waited in anticipation. We took turns with the can, using Sheila's new lucky spoon to eat our bounty. As we ate, we swapped stories and jokes, laughing around the fireplace. It felt oddly normal, as if we were just a group of friends out camping. How I wish that were the case. Graydon became very quiet, and I looked at him inquisitively. He sat in silence for a moment and then spoke. We need to head out tomorrow at daybreak. We've camped here for too long, and they will come for us soon if we don't keep moving. We all nodded silently in agreement as the morose reality of our situation washed over us like a heavy tide. We knew the drill. We sleep in shifts and keep alert, though I rarely slept even when it was my turn to. How could I? I knew what was out there, what was waiting for us in the shadows, lurking just beyond our sight. Still, I needed as much energy as I could muster, so I tried my best to get what little rest I could. I laid by the fire trying to visualize a better place. I closed my eyes and tried to ignore the smell of rot and the pain of my bruised flesh, the horror of days past, and the gruesome possibility of days to come. I pushed it all aside and let sleep come over me. I woke to the sounds of Tyrell packing up shop. Apparently I was the last one to wake up. I had needed sleep more than I had thought. I jumped up and gathered my things. I was on my way out the door when I noticed something shiny on the floor. A silver spoon. I raced out the door. Graydon and Lady were filling up their water jugs at the well out back. I ran over to Graydon, who wouldn't even look at me. Where is she, Graydon? I yelled. Where is she? She's gone, Graydon replied to the floor. What do you mean she's gone? She was there asleep when I closed my eyes. How could she just be gone? What happened? I demanded. I was on watch. It was pitch dark. She was there. I swear it, Rose. I did a quick perimeter check, and when I got back, she was gone. They got her, Rose. There was nothing I could do. He rested his hand on my shoulder and bowed his head apologetically. No, I shouted, and brushed his hand away. You don't know that. You can't know that. She could still be out there, and if she is, I will find her, I stated with fervor. Rose, Graydon muttered in protest. I wasn't asking permission. Now let's get a move on. We're burning daylight, I shouted to the rest of the group. We walked on, down the decrepit streets, past the burning buildings smelling of gasoline and death. I had a newfound mission in life, and I would gladly die before I gave up my search for that girl. No one was coming to save me, but maybe, just maybe, I could save her. My steps were brisker than before, filled with purpose. The clouds still hung overhead and loomed like angry demons threatening to devour the daylight. Dead leaves crunched under my boots, along with things I'd really rather not think about. We walked on. This was real. There was no camping trip. There was no normal. There was only this. We were left in the wake of a war we did not start. But I refused to let it take yet another casualty. Not this time. In my heart, I held on to the idea of freedom, and in my hand, I held a small silver spoon. That was chapter 1. So it would be really awesome if you let me know what you think, and any feedback is super helpful. Alright, thank you guys!